No, this is Under Sheriff Larry Campbell. I think you all know this man.
Director Jim McPherson in charge of the Capitol Police Force. The situation that we've got is that a subject apparently broke into the Capitol this morning somewhere in the area of 4 o'clock. We got information that he possibly had. We were unable to locate him until around 7 o'clock when an employee came into the building, attempted to go into the Sergeant of Arms office for the Senate. Found that the door was partially barricaded. Subject inside threw something on the employee, basically told him to get out of there. Notes indicate there's a possibility of hostages. The subject has a police-type radio and has communicated with law enforcement on the radio on one occasion, so we know he's listening to our transmissions.
Another call from Tallahassee right now. Marshall is on the line with a question about university tuition.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the line, Marshall. Go ahead with your question.
Ben Wilcox. He had a call-in radio show where you could call in about practically anything. Marshall used to call him all the time. I heard Marshall on one of those rants. I mean, he would call in with these weird, trippy rants. That's all they were. And they didn't make any sense. They didn't make a bit of sense. They were so ungrounded that you were, who is this guy? Who is this? Yeah. And I just went, this is some stoned FSU student. Is all he was. Brilliant, but off his rocker.
He was a lifelong reader, and he was an autodidact, super smart guy. But then he gets involved with the monarchy crowd, drinking and partying, and took that to an extreme to the detriment of his studies. Tallahassee is a big university town in northern Florida. Obviously, you have the capital there. It's a very global place. It's an international place, and you have people from all different, kind of walks of life. It was really just kind of a microcosm of humanity there. He latched onto that and believed in the mission of the university, which is to educate people and to make them more knowledgeable about all aspects of the world and humanity. He probably took that more seriously than a lot of students at Florida State.
I looked at him and I said, he looks like an interesting character, and when I heard him speak the few times that he spoke and the way he handled himself, he really appeared pretty intelligent. I thought he was probably a really intelligent guy that somehow something flipped a switch somewhere.
Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, it's basically concerning the tuition situation, like in the state university systems. You know, as students, every year we face increased tuition and less class space and so forth. But I'm quite sure everyone out there who is familiar with the university system knows about this already. What I wanted to do was possibly throw out a few concepts at you and just sort of get your opinion on the feasibility of this.
Well, real quickly.
Yeah, real quickly. I'm going as fast as I can.
Okay.
Governor Lawton Chiles, who was on the public radio in Tallahassee one day, this was shortly before the break-in, and Marshall actually called in and spoke to him.
The faculty in our state university systems are some of the most intelligent people I've ever met on this earth. Here we are sitting on a bunch of cyber supercomputers and so forth. We could be generating media in terms of virtual reality computer programs, gaming programs, rap albums, whatever, and marketing this. This could basically pay for the entire state university system.
He's basically suggesting to the governor a way that the state could make money by, tapping the intellectual resources of the faculty. So the host says, well, what do you think about that, Lawton Chiles?
If
Marshall?
You had Professor, hello?
Okay, I'm going to ask you real quick. Do you want the governor's thoughts on university tuition and where it stands right now?
Yeah, am I going to get a chance to even talk with him personally, or is this?
Yeah, he's right here. Ask him a question.
Okay. Yeah, what I was wondering is, if you don't think this will work, all I ask you to do is go and check out Walter Chinkle lecturing on insects for a couple of hours. This guy is just unbelievable. If you had 3 hours with a Walter Chinkle rapping about insects, you could take the bass lines and all the beats, and they would be the click beetles and things just basically all the fauna and flora from Tallahassee and so forth. I'm quite sure you could sell this at $20 a pop and move 50 million albums. That'd be $1 billion right there, and this is just from one 3-hour lecture from one man in one department in one subject.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. What do you think about that?
It sounds like a good business that you and I ought to get into. If that kind of profit can be generated, come see me and let's put together something.
This is the governor of Florida directly talking to Marshal Ledbetter, basically gives him an invitation to come and see him. What does Marshal do? He goes and sees him at the Capitol. Marshall came from a very conservative family in Auburndale, and when he got to Tallahassee, it was a very mind-blowing experience. He started Florida State University in 1987 as an honors student and lived in the honors dorm. He viewed the university as a place to really change your consciousness and your perspective. He did that, but he kind of did it to an extreme. He got exposed to drugs and alcohol, smoking a lot of weed, he was taking mushrooms and acid and so on and so forth, and he flunked out of Florida State University. He came back and he flunked out again, and then in the summer of 1991, he's basically homeless.
I think he went to New Orleans to see a couple of bands for Jazz Fest. That's where he started taking all the recreational drugs, shall we say. He didn't stop. All his friends that went with him, of course, they stopped. And he just continued on like it was, still the Jazz Fest.
He goes on a 23-day psychedelic mushroom binge where he takes mushrooms like nonstop.
He was running around the Capitol complex on the early morning hours.
Not just the mushrooms, but then alcohol, sleep deprivation can make people be very cloudy in their judgment.
About 2 hours.
What was he saying to you?
He basically is a young man who's very concerned about what's going on in the world and the hunger and poverty that he sees, and he wanted some way to say to the world that he wanted it to be better.
He's hanging out with his friend John Griffin, and then he basically says, "Screw it, I've had enough. I'm going to take over the Capitol." John just thought that he was totally joking, but he wasn't actually joking. Marshall walked over to the Capitol, which isn't that far from Florida State University campus. He had been drinking whiskey that night, and he wrapped the whiskey bottle in a towel. At about 2 o'clock in the morning, he smashed it against the glass doors of the Capitol.
The plaza level on the south side, just as you go into the governor's office.
What was it made out of?
It was a bottle with a towel wrapped around a liquor bottle. It contained nothing, and our bomb squad determined that it was not a bomb.
Now, this is 10 years before 9/11. This is before everybody had a SWAT team. So he was just this guy in shorts and a Jimi Hendrix tie-dye. Smashed the glass, broke in, left a message for the police, and the Capitol Police came, and they didn't see the message. I mean, it was just a comedy of errors.
Marshall, I think, was expecting that alarms would go off and lights would illuminate and the police would immediately show up. But strangely, nothing happened. The Capitol was known for its security. They had kind of bragged about just how impressive the security protections were, but he managed to get in there pretty easily, actually.
He was just wandering around the Capitol. He finally went to the Sergeant of Arms office.
The Sergeant of Arms is basically a ceremonial kind of position. It's not like there's really any arms in the Sergeant of Arms suite. It probably piqued Marshall's interest because he was thinking, well, maybe there's some weapons in there. So he manages to break into the Sergeant of Arms suite and barricaded himself in there and occupied it actually for the next 8 hours.
Oh boy. Big lights. Big lights. Big lights.
Close. We got time, Mike. Their feet goes all the way to the left.
He left one demand note. It would be advisable to leave the building and contact your superiors. There is a note on the front of the columns at the front entrance. Tell your fellow officers no harm will come to them if they do not penetrate the confines of the edifice. He signs it "Smoking Raven in the Eye of the Great Storm." There's an image of a raven smoking a joint. Then you have this acronym.
He represents some group that's acronym is ACID.
Annihilate, conditioning, integrate data. There's also in capital letters AWO. So you can imagine, being a police officer, maybe coming across man's note and really not knowing what the hell it means.
Act as though he does. He has indicated that he does have hostages. Whether he does or not, we'll know in the next little while.
It was one of those days in early June. The legislature had just gone home. As I recall, they used to meet through April and May and go home at the end of May. There was absolutely nothing going on in the Capitol building. About 8:40 that morning, I got a call from a great mentor of mine, a guy named Dan Bradley at WFLA in Tampa. He said, "The Capitol's locked down, somebody's taken it over and is holed up in an office. You need to get over there now."
What about a pool camera?
He indicates that he's armed, but he doesn't say specifically anything. He has left at least one diversionary type device that supposedly represented a bomb, but apparently was not an activated type of weapon.
There were snipers on the roof across the way. All the law enforcement agencies in Tallahassee, responded to it. They really didn't know what they were dealing with. They didn't know if he was armed. They didn't know if there were hostages.
They had every entrance secured. They had snipers on the old Capitol. I believe I was told they did. So they were prepared for a worst case scenario. And thank God they were, because it could have been.
They had cops swarming everywhere. They had guns. They were very serious. They were very serious. Marshall, I don't think he really understood what he had done.
At this point, he has got the doors to the Senate Sergeant's office from where we've been able to get and look into. It is barricaded. We're looking at ways to possibly breach that or what kind of a situation we can get in there. We are just fixing to start a hostage negotiation process.
My name is Gilda Strickland.
GILDA. You're a sergeant?
GILDA, Sergeant with the Sheriff's Department.
Sometime 2 hours after we got there, I got a call from someone, and a local radio reporter was reporting that the guy that was holed up in the Capitol was asking for me to do a live broadcast. Turned out not to be true, but it was reported as fact.
Found some notes at various places around the Capitol that some of them are fairly incoherent, that are making a list of demands of no great consequence.
And I think that's why he's famous now. Yeah, when you saw his list of demands, you just went, is this some kind of Andy Kaufman prank?
I didn't see a copy of it until it was handed to me to read on fake live TV. So they had a closed circuit in the Capitol, and they provided me with a feed from our camera to the 9th floor of the Capitol where public broadcasting was located and still is. Then they piped that through one of the channels, which was either 3 or 4, as I recall, one of the legislative channels. And so they told him to watch channel 4.
We're trying to save the man's life right this minute. Is the subject is talking with us. He has said that if a reporter he knows, if Mike Vasalinda reads a list of demands, we're going to do it on the in-house channel. Assure him that he's going to have his opportunity to talk with the press, et cetera, that the press is up on what's going on. He's going to be able to see Mike reading his list of demands, telling him he's saying, he wants you to be specific that the Sheriff's Department has said it. He trusts us. After he does that, he says he will come out. Okay? Go to, grab on your own. You want to put this on the air. We're going to do such and such, and we're certainly not going to establish precedent for that. That would be bad for y'all and bad for us.
Does he think this is going out live over CNN?
I'm Mike Vasalinda reporting live from the 2nd floor of the Capitol, where 2 floors above us, Marshal Ledbetter has taken over the Senate Sergeant at Arms office. We understand that you would like a Gumby's 20-inch veggie with extra jalapenos.
Liquor and some marijuana, some things like that.
1 case of Asahi beer, good choice.
1 ounce of indica.
A CNN news crew, we are here. 1 police band scanner.
666 jelly donuts.
For your fine friends in TPD, FSUPD,
and LCSD.
Also $100 worth of Chinese food.
Check with John at the Asian Walk for details.
Wanted to talk to Timothy Leary. Wanted to talk to Jello Biafran.
Debbie Harlow, Lemmy, Jello, and Ice Cube for starters. Also Flavor Flav, You also say it would not be advisable to enter the building as that we have no idea no hard data concerning the number of hostiles and their weaponry. Marshal, again, I repeat, if you're watching us here on the second floor of the Capitol, the Leon County Sheriff's Department assures us that you will be safe if you give yourself up. I'm Mike Vassalinda reporting.
Well, as we talked, there was a rapport that was established, and then after a while I could tell that we were really talking to each other instead of talking at each other. And after we did the in-house press conference with Mike, then I had made the agreement with him as once he saw his demands on the television set that he would come out and talk with us in person.
I think he was just probably manic depressive, maybe. It sounds like a manic-depressive episode to me. Who else would order that many jelly donuts for the police? But I'm telling you, if he had not written that list of demands, the carton of cigarettes he wanted, it's like, come on, that's funny. That is funny.
Once you saw the demands, you knew that something just wasn't quite right.
He knew that wasn't really a live broadcast, but why did he want it?
No, sir, he didn't know that was not a live broadcast.
Larry said he did.
I don't think he did. We never got into that. It was never a question he asked. All he wanted to see on television was his list of demands, and it didn't matter where he saw it. I just told him what channel to turn to, and he did, and he saw them, and then he was ready to come out.
Charges. The charges are being worked on right now. We know he'll be charged with burglary of an occupied structure and some other felony charges. We're going to take him to the sheriff's office now, and we'll work out in conjunction with the Capitol Police what charges we're specifically going to charge him with.
They finally walked him out. Here's Marshall. He was not a big guy at all. He was a skinny guy. And he had his handcuffs behind him and only had on his shorts, no shoes. Here he is. He's being walked up by the SWAT team. I mean, these guys are PO'd. And right before they shoved him in the cruiser, they said, Marshall, what was it you wanted to tell the people? He said, I'll get back to you on that. Dude, you had your one chance. You don't get another chance at this. And he didn't get another chance.
No question this whole thing was a statement, right? A public statement for his view of the world?
Exactly. He told me on the phone that this was a soapbox for him to make a statement to the world that things just had to get better.
Did he complain about any one thing in particular?
Which question?
It's quite clear to me now that he was experiencing some sort of psychotic delirium. Here he was imagining himself to be this big revolutionary figure akin to what you saw like in the 1960s kind of student movement. But at the end of the day, it was basically just an intelligent, witty guy who had a nervous breakdown and thought he was doing this very magnificent thing, but in reality, it was a lot sadder than that.
He got sent to Chattahoochee, and he would call me at weird hours of the night when I wasn't at work at the Democrat and leave me these rambling messages. I would call back the next day and he wouldn't be there. I would call back. So we played phone tag. And then finally I got him on the phone. Marshal Ledbetter, this is Mark. You and I had been trying to get in touch with each other. And he said, yeah, I can't talk right now. He's a totally different person. So whatever meds they had him on, they had, pumped in full of those. And he was as tame as a kid.
He never made that statement.
Did you ever feel that it might turn violent?
No, never did.
Did he make any threats?
Never made any threats.
There's an old adage in journalism, if it bleeds, it leads. So the most kind of spectacular, sort of outrageous stories are the ones that the media wants to focus in on. And this story was very titillating. Here you have this prankster college student who's thumbing his nose at the authorities, and he seems to be quite intelligent, quite witty. He has this crazy demands note, and, ha ha ha, isn't it all funny? Oh, by the way, he is mentally ill now. Things aren't as funny as they used to be.
It's not very funny. It did not end well. Plus, the Florida legal system was hard on him. They sent him to the Florida State Hospital, and I mean, they put him in with the real crazy.
He didn't have a lot of resources to delay the proceedings, for example, and to maybe get him into rehab as a diversionary sort of a way. And he didn't really have anybody who could question that diagnosis of being mentally ill.
He would have been shot if he did it now. But at least they have the drugs to take care of it. They have better drugs. And somebody may have given a rat's aspic. I don't know. Everybody falls through the cracks all the time. But he was not one to fall through the cracks very easy.
In his view, he wasn't the person that he was before. He was known for being a very intelligent, loquacious, witty, humorous guy. And for whatever reason, perhaps it was the nature of the mental illness, perhaps it was the antidepressant medication that he was taking, but whatever it was, he had changed as a person. From what I understand, he didn't like the person that he was anymore.
Why did you ask for me? Or did you? You were offered to me. Not that that's any sign of disrespect to you at all. I mean,
I was really, really saddened when that happened. He was a strong individual, very intelligent. He was a nice-looking guy. He could have gone anywhere with the right set of circumstances in his head and where he went.
He committed suicide in 2003, 19 years ago. If he was alive today, he would be, I think, about 53 or 54 years of age. He would probably appreciate some of the spectacle and the attempted humor of the big cosmic joke, which he tried to pull on everybody. It was one of those really pivotal moments in his life, and his life was forever changed by that decision. He would probably be still alive today if he hadn't had done that.
And he kind of laid the groundwork for the Occupy movement.
I needed a soapbox.
I don't think he really knew what he was doing, but when he did, got through. So it made an impact. We're still talking about him how many years later? 30, 40 years later? Yeah. That's, 30 years later. Yeah. So that says something right there.
I've got a number, but any of you want to tell to us? We're walking to the press conference. That's all I wanted. Right here, buddy. What do you want to tell us?
That microphone's getting in there now. We need to hear that.
I'm Mike Vasalinda reporting live from the second floor of the Capitol, where 2 floors above us. Marshal Ledbetter has taken over the Senate Sergeant at Arms office. Marshal, if you're watching this broadcast, the Sheriff's Department, the Leon County Sheriff's Department, has told us that you will be safe. They assure us that you will be safe if you give yourself up. They've also given me this list of demands that they say you would like us to read. We understand that you would like a Gumby's 20-inch veggie with extra jalapenos, 1 case of Asahi beer, good choice, 1 carton of Lucky Strikes filtered, the contents of the Iron Horse I liberated from budget, a puzzling request, 1 ounce of Indica, a CNN News crew, we are here, 1 police band scanner, 666 Dunkin' Donuts for your fine friends in TPD, FSUPD, and the Leon County Sheriff's Department. Also $100 worth of Chinese food. We're to check with John at the Asian Walk for the details. And you say these can be delivered by anyone in the upper echelon of the Monarchy Party, unless I can locate John Griffin or his roomie Ian. You say you also wish to speak with Timothy Leary, Debbie Harlow, Lemmy, Jello, and Ice Cube for starters. Also Flavor Flav, and also the leadership of AIM. You also say it would not be advisable to enter the building as we have no idea and no hard data concerning the number of hostiles and their weaponry. Marshal, again, I repeat, if you're watching us here on the second floor of the Capitol, the Leon County Sheriff's Department assures us that you will be safe if you give yourself up. I'm Mike Vasalinda reporting live from the second floor of the state capitol.